Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Thursday of Cy-Hawk Week. And what a Cy-Hawk Week it is. My name is Adam Jacobi, editor-at-large of GoIowaAwesome.com. This is the Iowa Sports Review stream. And we have a special guest here, Leah Vann of the Cedar Rapids Gazette. She is the Iowa football beat writer. And there goes our other special guest, my cat, who had been sitting on my shoulders. Maybe she'll join us again. Maybe not. Obviously, this is the biggest Iowa State game, maybe of all time, but definitely of the last 40 years or so. Lots of national attention. College Game Day making a return trip to Ames. Suffice it to say, this is a big spotlight on football in the state of Iowa. So we're really lucky to have Leah here. For those of you who have any questions, just put them into the chat in whatever platform you're using, YouTube, Periscope, thereabouts, and we will be happy to answer them for you and get you even more psyched up, if that's even possible, for Saturday afternoon's epic matchup. All right, so Leah, first of all, thank you very much for joining us on this beautiful late summer afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm a little tired, but I'm hanging in there. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Right on. Okay, so first things first. I've got a lot of Iowa State fans in my family, and I didn't get to watch their game, as did, neither did 49 states in the union. But the consensus was that they didn't look good enough to even be on the same field as Iowa when they were playing UNI. Anytime that you are within one score of an FCS team that was below 500 this spring, I don't think it takes a whole lot of analysis to say, yeah, that kind of performance is not going to be good enough to beat a top 10 opponent. Let me turn that question around. Off of what you saw from Iowa in week 1 against Indiana, let's say Iowa State returns to form as a top 10 team. We're in Ames. Did Iowa show you enough? Did Iowa play well enough in week 1 that you think, okay, if they play like that again, they should beat Iowa State?
I mean, absolutely. And I actually have a good number of Iowa State friends. I actually have a ton of Cyclone friends, which is hilarious. Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to seeing them in Ames. But yeah, I think that Iowa certainly did enough. We didn't get to see a lot of what they're capable of on offense, and I think that was by design. I wrote about that today. And but I think with Iowa State, you have to take into account that they had 2 of their most important players out. Charlie Kohler, which is their tight end, kind of their star guy. And then there was a guy on defense, and I am blanking out on who it was, that was out last week. Yes, Orion Vance, and I'm probably butchering that name, and my apologies. I will figure that out later. I've been up since God knows what time. And so they were both out, but they are expected to return for this game. So, that also means that there's a lot of the Iowa State offense that Iowa has not seen. But defensively, Iowa's very strong. Even their defensive line put up a great fight. Now, granted, Indiana's offensive line was its weakness going into the game.
Yeah.
But, I think that Iowa did get to shake off the dust and try out this brand new defensive line on a big top 25 opponent in Indiana, which I think is advantageous going into another top even 10 matchup, Yeah. So yeah, I think so. And especially, if Riley Moss has 2 more pick sixes, I don't know, that's pretty great.
Yeah, the one you mentioned guys coming back from injury, and it sounds like based off of reports that one guy Iowa's not going to get back for this week is Kyler Schott, who broke his foot baling hay, which is the most Iowa injury. Do you think that having him off of the line for another week, and this time against a really, really quality defense, is that going to be an issue, or were you impressed by the line's play in his absence in week 1?
I think the offensive line play was good. And I think there's certainly room for improvement. I saw some missed blocks at times, and Spencer took some hard hits at times, but you still can't go wrong having a center in Tyler Linderbaum. And, I think Mason Richmond, I think Nick DeYoung, and Justin Britt have all showed they're capable of, kind of picking up the pieces, with Kyler Schott's absence. Now, that being said, like, it would be a lot better if Kyler Schott were on the field. I'm seeing some of these comments, and I will say I have only seen the first half of the Iowa State game, which is the part where they are not doing well against UNI, and they did miss a ton of tackles. And so that was a concern. But I think from what people have told me and from what I have read from other people's coverage is that Iowa State did kind of get better with those tackles in the second half. And, their defense is something that is creative and it's innovative. It's going to change at halftime too, based on what they see out of Iowa. And it's something to be feared. It's something that places like Clemson are starting to mimic and starting to take note of, because they are used to, if you are inventing a defense that can stop a spread offense, I would be scared as any offense. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I know that, but then Tyler Goodson, I mean, props to that guy. He was all about saying whatever he wanted to say on Tuesday, and he feels very confident in his line. He feels very confident in the versatility of his own game to really show out and show everybody who maybe is the real contender for the Doak Walker Award. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really seems like the Doak this year, at a minimum, is probably going to end up inside the state of Iowa political boundaries. So I agree. That's going to be a really fun matchup to watch, even if they're not literally going head-to-head on the field. Ray J. Ortega, thanks for popping in here. Saturday will be the Tyrone Tracy show. Save this tweet. We got some bold words there.
There's a lot of takes that are coming in hot. I'm kind of loving it.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be great if we had a Tyrone Tracy show. He did some really good things on the ground last week. I love those like reverse plays. He's running around the edge. I think we're underestimating we have only like tapped the surface of what Tyrone Tracy can do.
Yeah, I agree. And it also seemed like once Iowa was up handily, that the assignment for Petrus changed a little bit, because this being a Kirk Ferentz offense, I think he's always been the sort of guy where it's like, all right, we're up big. Don't make it easy for them to come back, which is why, and this is my speculation, because we couldn't see how open or not open the receivers were. But I would guess that the reason why Petrus sent so many throws out to the boundary, 5 feet over his receivers' heads in week 1 was, the assignment is don't make a catastrophic mistake. And to his credit, he finished under 50% throwing for the day, but didn't throw any picks, didn't throw anything that should have been a pick either. So I don't know. Do you think that we're going to see a more efficient game out of him in Ames, or is there still some room for worry there?
So Brian Ferentz was really preaching that strategy. Like, let's not give up big plays. Let's be conservative, which take that as you will. You can have your takes on it. And so, those short passes out to the boundary, like those are a lot safer than throwing like a 40 to 50 yard bomb down the field. And especially against the coverages you're going to see out of Iowa State. I think you need to be a little bit more creative with that. And so Spencer, a lot of his throws were very accurate. There were a couple of drops, and then there were a couple of overthrows, which is like natural. It's the first game. He threw drastically fewer passes in the second half. I went back and I counted them, and I think there was like 9 passes he threw in the second half total. And then the first half, he threw like 16. So, I think that they were like, we're up by a lot of points. Let's not show our entire playbook to Iowa State. Let's not give them that much film because we're playing them next week. And then also, you're going to make adjustments going into Iowa State anyway. But I think it was a really good confidence booster for Spencer to go out, get this win pretty handily in a top 25 matchup. He got that QB draw play so he could, get his touchdown, get his, he feels like he's a very confident human being. And you got to remember that this offense has averaged like 35 points per game in the past, like, I think it was like 8 games or something like that. I'll have to go look that up. I don't have it in front of my face. I probably should. But yeah, I mean, it actually is a high scoring offense for Iowa. And like, you can't just look at the completion percentage from last week and make a conclusion about Spencer Petras, because it was a very good game for him. And everybody will tell you that on the coaching staff.
Well, you say that you can't look at his completion percentage and draw conclusions, but that's exactly what I'm doing. So I mean, and I would too. I would too if I were like, if I hadn't watched the game, or if like, it's so interesting because stats, like, we can all pull the stats that we want to back up our argument. And because there are so many complicated stats out these days. But I think if the coaches are pleased with what they saw, and if the receivers like Sam Laporta, who was his main target, he was working for him, if they are confident in their quarterback, who are we to say that he's not good enough? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I definitely didn't get the sense that the gap between Padilla and Petras was closing at all last week. On both quarterbacks' parts or anything like that. But I also saw some really like wretched performances by other quarterbacks around the league, around the nation in week 1 that also just had like objectively better numbers than Petras. So it's, I think you make a really solid point that if all you do is look at a box score and decide whether a guy did a good or a bad job, well, I guess that's what separates fans from coaches. But
I have to pause for a second because my laptop is dying.
Oh, no.
Stand by. Let me get the charger. I am so sorry.
Okay. All right. Time for me to fill. All right. We got a question from David Marks. So first of all, before I get into the question, a little reminder for you all to head on over to YouTube, click like, click subscribe, turn on notifications. That helps us put these shows on, makes it easier for us to get quality guests here. And so that's something that works for all of us. And the more you like this, shows like this, the more fellow Hawkeye fans it shows up in front of, and the more and more that we can build communities that are really more fun for you guys. So I'm not just asking everybody because we're selfish, although we are selfish, but it really does help us to hit like, hit subscribe, and help us grow this community during what really, really could be an eventful and super fun football season. So, all right. 1, welcome back, Leah. 2, David asks, what do you suspect is left in our playbook that we didn't show? I mean, a whole lot of things. Offense has changed pretty substantially game to game, team to team, matchup to matchup. But just going off of my memory, I would say we didn't see a whole lot of downfield action to the wide receivers. I know that they targeted Laporta plenty, especially over the middle, but we didn't see a whole lot of that downfield passing game where they were really, really trying to get those guys open and punish the safeties. That's my view of it. Leah, is there anything that you thought was conspicuously absent from the Indiana's game plan?
I think we're going to see more passing plays just in general. I mean, I hate to be super general about that, but I think that there's, incorporating the wide receivers a little bit more into the game, incorporating both tight ends more into the game. Luke Lachey and Sam Laporta, I think, I think that Luke Lachey too, we only saw him catch one pass, and I'm sure that there's something that like Iowa will tap into with him that we don't know a lot about. Sam Laporta is obviously going to be a huge part of this offense. I'm excited to see like him target Tyrone Tracy a little bit more. Nico Reganey had two really good catches. I think one was for 10 yards, one was for 11 yards. He's a very good route runner. I think there's going to be some plays where you're going to see him be targeted a little bit more because he's not quite as flashy of a name to Iowa State. So I'm wondering like, are they going to pass to him? Are they going to pass to Charlie Jones as opposed to like a Tyrone Tracy who they expect is probably going to be a huge part of this game? Keegan Johnson, I don't know. Maybe we see the young guy like hit it up. What if like we see a Max Cooper come out? Like I literally like I don't go to practice, so I don't know. Like they don't let us go to practice for that reason.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see a little bit more passes thrown, even though this is going to be a pretty like creative defense to pass against. But I don't think it's necessarily going to be downfield stuff. I think it's still going to be kind of, again, putting those receivers in position for them to make the rest of the play, because I think you're not going to take a huge risk against this defense with the linebackers that they have, with the cover, with the corners that they have, with the star player that they have, especially that star player is going to play that deep middle safety position that they have, which is like so weird, right?
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot of running though. Like, obviously Tyler, if you have Tyler Goodson, you use him. And so what they do with that, I don't know. Like, I think, is he going to be running up the middle more? Is he going to be running around the edges? Is he going to be more in like, is he going to be, more like halfback screen passes? And maybe Iowa gets Monte Pottebaum involved. Let's get the fullback involved, right? Like, what is the fullback going to do? That's something that Iowa State does not see a lot of in the Big 12, and I can say that for a fact because I barely know what a fullback is.
Here come the death threats. Oh, no.
Yeah. But, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. It's, the personnel packages that they still have available to them. You bring up an excellent point. Yeah, maybe it's Max Cooper. Maybe like, oh my God, it's Arlen Bruce the Fourth's music. Like
they're gonna be. I think I was gonna throw guys out there where they're like, who is that?
Yeah,
and like Charlie Jones had a couple of good plays, and also is a great returner. And I don't know. I think Iowa should take full advantage of him too.
Yeah. So there had been a little bit of question after the Indiana game, both for the status of Charlie Jones and Tyler Linderbaum. Linderbaum made it back onto the field, but so it's been confirmed that those two guys are both doing just fine and they're raring to go for the game.
Yeah, so Tyler Linderbaum got sick of us asking if he was fine. And one of my editors was like, "Oh, like you really should have written your side feature on Tyler Linderbaum because I wrote about Dane Belton as my like second game story kind of thing." And I was like, "No, literally, this guy like hated answering this question." And because he was back in on the next offensive series, like he really didn't miss much, and he just took a helmet to the calf and it just put him down for a few minutes, but he assured us he's doing fine. If they are on the depth chart this week, they are doing fine. The only injury that we know of that has put someone on the sideline is Kyler Schott. Charlie Jones is doing fine. Someone said Sam Laporta looked like he had an injury. He's doing fine. So everybody's doing fine. So no stress there.
Yeah. Okay, good. In the interest of not further angering an All-American offensive lineman, I will not ask about Tyler Linderbaum. today or ever again. Really, I don't ever want to. He's the sort of guy you don't want to get on the bad side of.
Well, and he's a tough cookie, like he's a tough cookie, and if he's not on the field like before the game starts, or he's in some sort of creative boot situation, well, I'll let you know. But like, as far as I know, he looked great on Tuesday too, and I think people were asking him again, like, "How are you?" He's like, "I'm fine."
Yeah. And that's just going to have to be good enough. We got a question from Dan that I think that you touched on a little bit earlier, but when you talk to the players, do you get any sense there's a QB controversy? Media questions Petrus a lot. But you said that there's still confidence there, right?
There is no quarterback controversy at this point in time. There is not. Like, I know... Yeah, there are some people who think there should be, and there are some people who want to ask about that and create that narrative, and because it's fun, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know. The players, the coaches, everybody only talks about Spencer.
That's a really interesting way to think about it, but there's probably a lot to that if 95% of the oxygen goes to one guy, then that's pretty much all you need to know. Let me ask a follow-up though. Let's say, it's another, let's say he has a tough road game, and we saw plenty of that out of Nate Stanley over the last, over the last 3 years. Do you think that starts to shift a little bit, or is it still like going to be his job to keep for at least the next month or so?
The one thing I've learned, or that I've gathered from getting to know these coaches and getting to know Kirk Ferentz, is that they like consistency and they trust seniority and development and experience. They're not going to take that gamble unless it is truly, truly, truly worth it. And, you're going to see every quarterback has a bad game. I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but they do. I don't know if that's going to be this weekend. I hope not for y'all. I don't know, but the thing is like every quarterback's going to have bad games and good games. Like, that's just part of the game. And everybody's favorite player is the backup quarterback. And the grass ain't always greener on the other side. I'm just saying. But yeah, there's one thing that I've learned about this Iowa football program is like, we are a development program. You will earn your spot through time and experience and reps. And what Spencer has is time, experience, and reps. And he has total command over the locker room with his leadership. And so, he would have to do something or have a pretty egregious run of games for them to really think about putting Padilla in instead. And I think that that's pretty universal too when it comes to deciding who your starting quarterback is going to be, is because also the other thing that comes with experience is you hopefully don't turn the ball over as much. And they would rather put someone in with a low completion percentage who doesn't turn the ball over than someone with maybe a higher completion percentage but throws 3 interceptions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the worst thing that could have happened in terms of the narrative going on with, especially with fans, the worst thing that could have happened was when Scott Docterman at The Athletic, and this is not a knock on Scott at all. I love the work he does. But he had posted that report from summer camp where one of the receivers said that some of the throws that Padilla makes are, I believe the term was jaw-dropping. And while I'm sure that's accurate, that is the sort of thing that in idle fans' minds can get interpreted to this guy should be starting. And I hopefully we can still keep pouring some cold water on that, because it, based off of everything you've said, everything that we've seen, there's really, really no reason to question Petrus at this point, right?
Well, and I think that also players are all about their bros, and I remember that quote, and you can take that as you will, right? And all Scott did was regurgitate it, right? Like he was like, this is what these players said. Because like people want to know about Padilla. People want to know, like, he's a high interest guy, and so is Deuce Hogan. And so like take that as you will, right? And some people are gonna take that as like, oh my God, he's gonna be starting. And well, we never said that. Scott never said that. You know, like and Scott's an incredible reporter, and I learned so much from him. But it was kind of, it's one of those things that's triggering to people is when you hear them talk about the backup quarterback, you know?
And for any program, this is not an Iowa thing at
any
all.
Program. I'm from Texas has its own quarterback competition right now. And I was all about it. You know, I was like, oh man, you know, like Hudson Carter, Casey Thompson, who are we going to see?
Yeah. So let me ask a little follow-up here. Major Applewhite or Chris Sims?
I don't know. You got to give me time. Got to give me time. Major Applewhite didn't really work out as a offensive coordinator. So
fair.
You know, neither did God. Who else did we have when I was in college? Like Tim Beck or something? I don't freaking know. I don't even remember all their names because we've been through so many coaches.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Hopefully there's a little bit of stability there. In the SEC. Kyle Houston. Thank you, Kyle. Petras has his faults for sure, but Iowa has won 7 in a row with him. Really hard to dispute that. He's been much better after his first 2 starts.
Most logical fan award goes to Kyle Huston.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for the amount of improvement that Petras did over those first 2 games, because he really did look lost at times in those games in a way that he didn't look lost ever, say, last week or really at the end of the season. So it turns out having Ken O'Keefe coach your quarterbacks remains a very, very good thing. But, you know, this is going to be a very special environment, plausibly the toughest road environment that Petras or Iowa as a whole faces all season. Do you think there's a little bit of susceptibility to, you know, having the moment overwhelm them? Or have you seen enough from Petras, from that offense, that you think, yeah, they were made for this? Hi, Annie.
Oh my gosh. Kat has joined. Yeah, you know, I mean, I think it's going to be easy to get rattled, but I also think that Iowa. Hi, I'm Leah. I'm with the Cedar Rapids Gazette. I cover Iowa football. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so I think that Spencer, he's an interesting personality. I love picking his brain. And someone was asking him, really drilling him about like the emotions surrounding this game. And you know, the thing is a lot of the Iowa football players are not very like visibly emotional people. And I see them as a media person. But I think they do a very good job of really like drilling into these players' minds. This is what you are focusing on. And a lot of them were kind of like, they were seeing the fact that game day was not coming to their town as an advantage because there's less distraction. Yeah. And then Tyler Goodson was like, I want to put on a show in their stadium. And I was like, oh, okay. And, but Spencer's a very like confident. I mean, I remember the first question I asked him in I think it was in the spring. And I was like, what do you think about like these fans? They're very critical of you. You know, what is your response? He's like, I quite frankly don't care what they think. And then, you know, we get to the media availability on Tuesday. He's like, you know, I walk around campus. Some people will say, hey, good game. And then some people will say, hey, bad game. And you know what? Either way, I'm like, thanks. You know, it's just kind of like he's got the right personality to not be rattled. And he reads a lot of books on like stoicism and how to keep his mind really like centered and, you know, brush people off. He's got that personality. It's kind of edgy. It's kind of like, you know, I'm sorry. I just don't care. I wish I had skin as thick as Spencer Petras. Like it is, you know, it is like he just gives off this impression that he really just quite frankly does not care, which is, I think, the mindset that you need to be in going into a game like this. And it seems like all the players were, you know, they're D1 athletes. They know how to handle this. but it's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy emotional. And I couldn't do it. I could not do it.
Yeah, it must get old so quickly for them. Like not in a way that makes them not want to, do whatever, or like not in a way that makes them not want to like spend time on campus or anything like that. But just because some kid named Brett comes up to you between class and is like, "Why'd you throw it out about?" Like that seems like I would
Yeah,
get
and then I
so
think
tired of
Spencer
it
could
so
be
quickly.
like, "Well, I saw this coverage, and so then I thought I would throw it to this receiver, and it just didn't work out." So,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
think a
he's got
lot
a
of the
great line
players
for it.
were fully prepared for everybody to ask about the rivalry and the emotions surrounding it. But I think after a while, they were like, "Yeah, I mean, we're gonna be fine." I mean, what are they gonna say? I'm
Yeah,
rattled. I'm absolutely scared. I'm scared out of my mind to go to Ames. No one's going to say that.
no,
But I think these Iowa
yeah,
football players, they're like very level minded. And those are it's like kind of the themes of all the books they read in the off season too.
nice. All right. Just a quick little reminder for everybody. You're watching the Iowa Sports Review. I am Adam Jacobi. Go Iowa Awesome. As Leah mentioned, Leah Vann, Cedar Rapids Gazette, Iowa football beat writer. And for those of you watching on YouTube, go ahead and click subscribe, and put your questions into the chat window at bottom right. And there's also a way for you to ask questions in Periscope too. But we are growing this community, and it's going to be a community of all of y'all, and we're here to answer y'all's questions. So the more that you participate, the more we get people just like you, and the easier it is for us to do our jobs. So feel free to click all the things. We got a question from Dan. Who wins this weekend? What's the final score, and what happens to the ranks of both teams? Well, interesting question. I think the team, look, hear me out here. This is going to be controversial. I think the team that wins, their rank is going to go up. But the team that loses, I think it goes down. No, I think it's going to be really close. And honestly, I do not have a read on a final score. I really don't. There's so many different ways this game could go, especially depending on, I think it's just going to be a matter of how the first quarter or two goes in terms of what Iowa can do, in terms of what they can't do. Or as Ray J. Ortega helpfully reminds us, Hawks by a million. So, okay, you heard it here, folks. 1 million to 14. That's a surprisingly round number, but we'll take it. No, Leah, do you have any read on how this is going to end up yet?
No, but my employer wanted me to make a pick, and
okay.
And, because we do the pick'ems in the paper, and then I do my little game day analysis. And I was like, oh, I mean, it's hard, especially in the beginning of the season. I did pick Iowa State. I'm so sorry. Bad
reporter.
I know. I literally, I was like, I think it's going to be so close too. But I said, and I just threw a random score that I thought was not going to be very high. And, not very creative. So I just put 21-17. I thought about it last night. I was like, what if I did 20-21? Then I was trying to do the math and how that works out. And I was just like, how do I just do a classic football score that sounds kind of Big 10-ish, kind of Big 12-ish. I really have no idea. I mean, I just made a pick. I mean, I could also make another pick just for fun and just be like, yeah, I think Iowa's going to win 34-21. I think you can
Clip
just
that, Dan.
We can all put our fake picks out there, and nobody knows what's going to happen. Literally, no one knows. I did not think that what happened against Indiana was going to happen. So
yeah, I don't think anybody did either. And the people that would have predicted a score like that probably made a whole lot of other crazy predictions that didn't come close to being true either, right?
This is why I don't gamble.
Yeah.
I am not confident.
Same.
I would lose so much money. My little brother he's hugely into it. The Iowa State being in black uniforms, I think is hilarious. I think it's just peak rivalry week. I'm all for rival beef, and I think that's great beef.
Yeah. I think the fans care so much more than the athletes. Like by orders of magnitude, they care more. Because
rivalries are for the fans. They're for the fans.
They are. They are. Yeah, and I personally, I'm in favor of this move because the high temperature keeps spiking in the forecast. Like, okay, tell you what, if Iowa State really wants to wear black uniforms on a day where it's going to be like 95 degrees at kickoff, I say
go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, you got us. You got us.
I don't understand. There's a ton of schools that are like just putting out black uniforms just for fun, even though it's not their color. And people have asked Texas to do it for years, and Texas is like, no.
Yeah.
We are not changing our uniforms at all. Like it's like the same since like the beginning of time.
Yeah. I think it really is as simple as players look at black uniforms and they say, that would be fun to wear. And that's it. That is, the sum total of why there's so many black uniforms. They look cool. And
I was telling this to like one of my friends last year, and I said, because I think I saw like just awful Oregon jerseys or something that was just like obscene, and I was like, this is why we need more women in sports, because then they won't be able to get away with fashion as horrible as this. Like it's just y'all gotta get some women designers on some of these jerseys and stuff, because holy cow, I've seen some really ridiculous ones. Like TCU had these uniforms once that like they're on a purple uniform and the white letters were outlined in red. Why? And you couldn't see the numbers because they were outlined in red against a purple background. I was like, clearly this decision was not made by a woman. Like this is a color scheme I cannot believe exists. Is
that okay? I think this is the first time I'm hearing of that, but as I'm visualizing it in my head, is that like a reference to how horned frogs can shoot blood out of their eyes?
It had something to do with that, I think, and they debuted them against Texas, and I mean they beat Texas.
But it doesn't make it like fun to look at. Right?
It like truly hurt my eyes. I was so bothered by it. I couldn't tell who. You couldn't read the names of the people on the back of their jerseys, and I was just like, this is horrible. So
yeah. But yeah, where was I going? I don't even know what I was about to say. So Dan has told me that whenever I don't know what I'm going to say, I say make sure to click subscribe, join us in this community. Yeah, let's see. Iowa DBs will make up for Saturday and end up with 7 picks. I'll tell you what, if they can pick off Brock Purdy 7 times, or, just 5 times and have 2 of them called back, I think it's a pretty good chance that Iowa can win that game. Just a hunch.
Right, they're dishing out some really hot takes, and it's hilarious, and I'm all here for it.
Tremendous.
I love it.
Yeah. Tell you what, it'll get them closer to winning by 1 million. The one thing that I really liked off of the Iowa Instagram account is they've started to brand themselves as Ball Hawk U, which is pretty nice. They lead the nation in interceptions since 2017, and I also like it because DBU is taken, and they're not gonna be able to wrestle that away from is it Texas that's DBU, or is it Penn State, or
Texas has used it, but I've seen a number of different universities use it.
Yeah, so like they're not going to be able to take that for themselves, without people being like, who the heck are these guys? But Ball Hawk U, one, it's got the hawk play in it, and 2, it's something that's sort of uniquely Iowa's. They got there first, and I really, really like that as a successful branding operation. Hopefully they can keep that up, and it's also nice because the accomplishment predates the branding of the accomplishment. You know what I mean? Like it's not like whatever branding Nebraska's trying to do with their defense now, despite the fact that they're in the bottom third of the nation on a yearly basis. It's not bluster. It's something that's backed up by stuff that they've done. So I think that's a really cool nickname for the defense, and I hope that they really, really lean into it, because Ball Hawk U sounds like the sort of thing that, at a minimum, sounds really, really good to some 17-year-old in Florida, right?
It's a great Iowans love their puns, which is why I rebranded my podcast to Hawk Off the Press. And
nice. Very good.
I did not come up with that name. We have someone on staff who's far more creative than I am. And I just picked it out because he gave me like a list of 50 names for that. And we had like Hawks on the Rocks because I really like whiskey. But then I was like, on the Rocks makes it sound like they're not doing well.
Right.
And I came up with like Hawkeye Happy Hour. And then I was like, we probably should not like promote drinking culture in that way. And like, I'm a newspaper reporter. And, I had to change my like profile picture and everything because I was like, I'm in season now. I need to be a grown up. So yeah. I really don't drink that much, which is, I really just don't. I think I like had my first beer like in 3 weeks, like a couple weeks, like it, I just don't. I like ice cream. I like to get my calories and dessert. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that, I think it's the DBU, the Ball Hawk U. I think that's super creative. I think Iowa's football social media, their creative team, is shout out to them. They're killing it. I love creeping on their Instagram. I love seeing their Twitter. They do a really good job, and I thought that was super creative. And it's something that only Iowa can claim, whereas like DBU, you can kind of adapt that to any school.
Yeah. At best, you're fighting with like 3 other schools for DBU. At best. Mm-hmm. One thing that I noticed about speaking of social media, when I was looking up pronunciations for some names, I was on the Iowa Hawkeye roster. And if you scroll over, they actually have the Twitter and Instagram accounts like linked for each of these players. And gosh, after 2 decades of Kirk Ferentz being like, you stay off the internet at all costs, every single one of you, it seemed like an alternate reality to look over and be like, oh, that's where Tyrone Tracy's on Instagram and on Twitter. Like, it really seems like a brave new world, but at the same time, that the Iowa athletic creative team that you mentioned, they've really leaned into it, and they've really done a good job of incorporating it into what they're trying to do with the program without, making it more splash than substance. I really can't say enough about what a good job they've done of, adding some more value and personality to everything that they put out as a whole.
You could argue that they have to in this era, especially with the name, image, and likeness. And also with recruiting going the way it is and their competitors, the way that they're recruiting. And so it's almost like, you've got to lean into that or you're not going to survive as a program, a Power 5 perennial program, So, like Illinois is like Brett Bielema, like, okay, they're not Bielema. They're not going to do, they're not going to do super well this season, but they're impressing everybody with their recruiting. Why? Because their creative team is also super leaned into it. Brett is fully bought into the NIL stuff. Ohio State is very bought into the NIL stuff. You look at the creative teams everywhere. You've got to vamp up your game. You've got to modernize. You've got to adapt. And if you don't, you're not going to survive.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, it's been 45 minutes. This is the busiest week of the year for you. We've kept you long enough, and you've been up for way too long. So, Leah, thank you so much for joining us, for giving us this amount of your time. I've always been super, super impressed by the Gazette's operation and their choices of beat writers over the years. I don't think it's ever gotten better than having Morehouse, Halas, and Doctorman in the same room. But really, really glad that you're on that team too, and they just keep picking winners. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for being part of this beat. And hopefully you have a good time covering the game on Saturday.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. And thank you, everyone, for joining us, for sending in your questions, and for supporting the show in general, I'm going to make one more request here. Make sure that you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you turn on notifications so whenever we go live like this, you can join us, ask your questions, get some good answers, and really have a lot of laughs and learn a little bit. And so thank you all for joining us. Have yourselves a lovely rest of the Thursday, lovely rest of your week. Go Hawks, go Iowa awesome.